Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the previous episode, we completed part 2 of the investigation. Today's episode right now, we're going to go into trial court part 2. If you had today's episode, make sure to hit that like button. Spoilers can pitch the channel. I think it's part 2, but it says part 3. But the way I put it up is just when we go into trial, investigation, trial, etc, etc, etc. Whatever. Anyways, good morning to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor. Ready for today's proceedings? I hope so. I should be. Even I, with nothing left to... Good morning, dear fellows. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you're here. Why, naturally. A true gentleman stands shoulder to shoulder with his friends in battle at all times. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll see you later then? Now, Professor, we really need you to remain calm in the courtroom today. Yes, do try your hardest not to enter the witness stand uninvited again. Yes, I will. I realize it was a mistake, but my dear fellows, I must interject. Oh, you're still here, Mr. Sholmes? What's the matter? Surely you overlooked some phrase, have you not? To be cast in my direction? Sorry, I don't follow. Must I spell it out? I, the great Sherlock Sholmes, the greatest detective of worldwide acclamation, arose at some ungodly hour to be here now, first thing in the morning. A miracle, you must agree. Well, if I must agree, then... As you know, my sleep is quite impregnable. I was had to employ her full gamut of tactics. She pulled the covers off, shook me, hooked my cheeks, punched me, and kicked me from the bed. Then she poured a boiling cup of her latest experimental blend on my face. At last, I was bestirred. Oh my, Iris has been busy. Iris doesn't have it in her to go that far. She's too nice. I sense the spirit of a fellow scientist, one who relishes the infinite possibilities of blending tea. I'm the one praising here, not Iris. This is my victory. Sorry to cut in. Oh, Inspector Gregson. Good morning. Gregson, my dear fellow, why the grim expression at this delightfully early hour? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I've been confronted with a grimmer expression, Dear me, are you going to take an insult lying down, Professor? Well, what? I don't know. Poor Professor. Anyway, here's the paperwork you asked for. What paperwork? I took the liberty of requesting it yesterday. I have a feeling it may prove useful. After what happened yesterday, sheesh. You wouldn't have believed the hoops I had to jump through to get through the brought out of the archives. It's the professor's autopsy report. That mass murderers? Who killed 5 members of the aristocracy? He was found guilty in closed trial 10 years ago now. It was all done under wraps. And he was quite quickly executed soon after the trial. It's all in here. Will we see the madam today? I don't know what to say. Thank you, Inspector. Yes, much obliged, Gregson. Us slowly lot at the yard are just doing what we can. In the shadow of the great Detective Sholmes, of course. Well then, Professor Hairbrain, this is it. Today, we're going to lay all this to rest at last. I wish you the best of luck, Professor. I suppose he'll be in there today, will he? Drebber? Yes, we expect the prosecution to summon him as a witness. I'm still amazed that you managed to find him in just one day. I really owe you both so much. Counsel, and here we go. Let's begin. This is it then, the final chapter. Funny, my heart's racing a little. I've not felt this before actually. A strange foreboding. As if something is going to happen in this trial that I'm not ready for. But I can't let that distract me from the only thing that really matters. Finding the truth. "24th October, 9:30 a.m. The Old Bailey. And there he is. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the public hearing of Albert Harebrain here to present who stands accused of murder. Are the counsels for the prosecution and defense ready to proceed? The prosecution is ready, my lord. Defense is ready, my lord. As promised, Lord Von Zykes has his apprentice with him. His apprentice with memory loss. If I may, Lord Von Zykes. Yes, my lord. There appears to be someone standing at your side. Ah, yes, my apprentice and assistant. The prosecution believes today's proceedings will see the complexity of this case rise considerably. I therefore instructed my assistant to attend to ensure the smooth running of the trial. And the smooth running of liquid refreshments, by the look of it. The way he holds himself, the way he moves, it couldn't be anyone else. But he's still suffering from amnesia, so there's really nothing we can do at the moment. I know, but, oh, this is so very hard. If it really is who we think it is, then I definitely predicted back in the beginning, in the first trial of that freaking series, that we could see us against him. It would appear the prosecution has done a fine job in responding to the demands that the court made yesterday. Understand you have successfully secured the engineer who disappeared from the scene on the day in question? Yes, my lord. I intend to call him a witness shortly. Very good, very good. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, who have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in the court, here we go. Of course, my lord. I'm sure we all understand the importance of doing our civic duty. I do despise deception and deceit. I find it so wearing. We didn't do a summation examination at all with this group in the first part, didn't we? Any fake scientist will feel the wrath of God. Why do we have a kid? Why do we have a kid in the jury stand? Don't they have to be 18? Wasn't like this back in my day. Wasn't like this at all. If all parties are ready to proceed, you may begin, Lord Von Zykes. Before I do, my lord, there is a report I must read to the court. Yesterday, at the Great Exhibition Grounds, the evidence of primary importance in this case, the super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine, which was installed on the experimentation stage, was deliberately destroyed in an explosion affected by an unknown person or persons. It was? What? An explosion? This is an outrage. Yes, I heard this grave news yesterday. The Scotland Yard submitted a report to my office in the evening. I read that machine was blasted to smithers, and the wreckage reduced to ashes in the flames. I have here a photographic print of the scene, taken in the wake of the explosion. It shows what little remains of the machine. It kind of proves our theory how there is something in the bottom. Yes, terrible business. He did it to destroy the evidence, did he? That Enoch Drebber. The court will take this print as evidence, counsel. Late yesterday afternoon, the protection afforded to the machine by the special dispensation, whatever, was revoked. However, before a thorough investigation could begin, the invention was obliterated from existence. As such, this will become a very different trial. As it stands now, with no evidence on which to draw meaningful conclusions, the authenticity of the kinesis machine will remain forever in obscurity. Indeed, a most unfortunate state of affairs. However, one thing remains clear. The victim's death was the result of the actions of the accused. Of that we can be certain. For it was the accused himself who was operating the machine and who ultimately caused its loss of control.
Objection.
As Lord Von Sykes rightly says, this is a very different trial now. The accused accepts responsibility for his part in the events that transpired. He acknowledged that Mr. Osmond died as a result of the accident caused by the machine's malfunction. However, unbeknownst to the professor, he was being deliberately deceived by a pair of very clever fraudulent fraudsters. Names, counsel, if you please. The engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, and the victim himself, Audie Osmond. So what exactly were these two men up to behind the defendant's back? The defense extends to expose the information, thus establishing the unequivocal innocence of the defendant. Thank you, counsels. The position of the prosecution and defense have been clearly stated. Lord Von Sykes, summon your first witness, please. At once, my lord. The prosecution calls the engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, to the stand. He's doing the robot. State your name and occupation for the court. Name, Enoch Drebber. Occupation, robot. Hard to pin down, I would say. See that black monocle? Oh, that's racist. Yes, why do I feel as though I've seen it somewhere before? Oh, you too. I had exactly the same feeling myself. Your file indicates that you are currently being investigated in connection with another case. The theft of a waxwork model, is it? A most extraordinary sounding business. But that has no bearing on this trial, I assure you. Cleave it from your mind. That's a lie. You're familiar with the public experiment carried out to the great exhibition some days ago? The accused super high voltage instantaneous kinesis demonstration? Yes, you could say that. I am aware of it. There was a terrible accident, wasn't there? It was you, Mr. Drebber, who constructed the vast machine used in the experiment, or so our investigation indicated. Can you confirm your involvement? Yes, I constructed it, in precise accordance with the blueprints, but that's all. But then the court would be interested to hear your thoughts about the machine. He's doing the robot! Amazing device, if you ask me. The pinnacle of modern science, making instantaneous kinesis a reality at last. What? Good gracious! Do you mean to say that the experiment was a bona fide? Is that your belief, sir? Yes, that is very much my belief. Such a waste that it blew up. But believe we've already established the machine was nothing more than a prop for an elaborate conjuring trick. You established nothing of the sort. All that was shown during yesterday's proceedings is that the same outcome could have been produced by the means of staged trickery. The defense merely proposed a method and demonstrated its feasibility. Nothing more. But... We procrastinated long enough, I feel. Witness, you will now give your formal testimony about the machine that you constructed for the purpose of the demonstration of the great exhibit. Understood. He's doing the robot. The kinesis machine. I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Osmond's introduction. He provided me with the blueprints and I constructed the machine to its precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above the heads, and then crash head first into the crystal tower. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science under which the machine was built was flawed somehow. A body double? That goes without saying, surely. To give the impression that something has moved when in reality it hasn't. It is a conjuring principle. The deception cannot be achieved without substituting the original with a fake at some point of the performance. But would I be right in saying you haven't managed to establish anything along those lines? Incidentally, The prosecution has already confirmed that Mr. Osborne has no twin siblings. It's my understanding that the witness is well versed in conjuring artfulness, but such talents do not indicate that he was actually able to accomplish what he claims, namely the construction of what, by all counts, must have been extremely complex scientific machine. Whatever do you mean? Yesterday's proceedings, we brought the true nature of your past exploits to light, Mr. Drebber. Indeed it did, my lord. As a swindler who preys on innocent scientists to elicit government grant money through conjuring who know what. Yes, it's true that I possess considerable knowledge of stage magic. But crucially, my scientific knowledge more than matches that of any of academic in the field. Investigation of the witness's workshop attests to that claim, my lord. And as evidence, the police found this Royal Society trophy for young talent in the science there. Yes, that's true. We spotted there ourselves. If our hypothesis is sound, it can always be forged into a physical manifestation with sufficient skills. Though I may have told the secrets of some deceptive wiles to sniveling talentless scientists in the past. Would you therefore assert that explosion of the machine was an unfortunate accident, or of course, a deliberate act of murder carried out by misuse of the science? But who's the one who built it? Counsel for defense, your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. First things first, we're going to examine the evidence we got so far, which we have yet to do. Shut up. I want to see something. So we got this, and it proves that the thing that was latched on to me making a hole. Let's see the part. Condemned prisoner. Oh man. Redacted for confidential. Pseudonym, the professor. Death by hanging confirmed by midnight. We have yet to unlock it because there's a key. This lock does look very strong, doesn't it? There's definitely no way we can remove the mask or stuff it was to put. What a terrible way to treat someone, even a convicted criminal. I know, it's starting to make me livid actually. Mr. Naruto, please. I mean, just think about it. Imagine if you had an itch on your cheek all of a sudden. You'd be utterly helpless. Well, yes, that's true. I'm not sure that warrants quite much anger. Oh, right. Sorry. Besides of being a freaking wax dummy. There's a little metal plaque here, look. Fostering burgeoning talent for the future of scientific discovery. It seems rather ironic, doesn't it? But clearly Mr. Drebber really was a very talented scientist. Alright, nothing. Alright. And there was something else that we got too that we didn't even get a chance to look. Look, the cover came open. Yes, now there should be a glass plate inside, and you have to change the plate with each new photograph you want to take, you see? Is something wrong? There is no plate. It's been removed. Ah, what a pity. I suppose if you think about it, this wouldn't be the actual camera that was used at the time, just like the waxwork, isn't the actual person? So we never have found a photographic print in the executed convict coming back to life anyway. Oh yes, you're quite right, of course. Susan, she looks devastated. Okay, that's what we got. What a wonderful machine. You really love contraptions like this, don't you? Oh yes, anything mechanically I find absolutely irresistible. Almost irresistible, surely. Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart. That's worrying. Yes, father tells the time by ramblings of his stomach now. He's giving up having a watch. Or Professor Rikotoba. Interesting. Hey, yo! Look, Mr. Naruto, what is it? The bellows, just here. There seem to be some very dark red stains. Yes, you're right. It looks like blood, actually. Oh my. I'm sure it's not what you're thinking. Okay, interesting. What was the purpose of this camera again? Of him having it? Okay, we got the birdcage for a reason. Hey, back over there. Back! Oh, look here, Mr. Sato. Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. Suppose it's because from the such height? Yes, no, that's not how I look at it. Yes, from a height of which the balloon was flying down into the crystal below. A fall about 30 feet, or 9 meters. Even the man inside tragically dead. Okay. Can we examine what's... Alrighty then. Anything else do we want to use? I met the young professor 1 year ago. He provided me with blueprints and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. We didn't get no blueprints out. It was all burned up. If it was a show, it was fraud.
Hold it!
It's clear that you have both scientific knowledge and knowledge of conjuring magic. However, the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are handled to whatever comes along. What your implication is that I furnished the machine with some trickery, I think. It's a possibility that we have to explore. Unfortunately, though, the machine has been blown to Kingdom Come. So there's really nothing left to explore, is there? It appears that the kinesis machine was fitted with a time explosive device of some kind. And there's nothing left of that device either. Not a single shred of evidence remaining, I hear. He must have planned all this from the outset. But in any case, it's abundantly clear that the experiment couldn't have been a trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double.
Hold it!
Of course, that's it. Mr. Osman was a twin.
Objection!
Perhaps my learned friend wasn't listening earlier. Mr. Osman had no twin siblings. No, I heard you before, but the thread of hope hadn't quite left me. The demonstration could have been a trick if there was somebody who sufficiently like the victim. But Dr. Scythe absolutely ruled that out a possibility. It is beyond question that the victim himself, Mr. Osman, did move from the stage to the Crystal Tower. The fingerprints found at the scene attest to the fact. So it can't have been orchestrated using someone who looked identical to Mr. Osman then. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruto? Oh, no, nothing. Just that the idea of someone who looked identical to the victim is playing on my mind. We have the wax double, but we can't open the thing. All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above the heads.
Hold it!
It crashed head first, you say? According to the many witness reports from those there at the time, yes. Were you not there at the exhibit grounds on the day? Head first, they said? Unlikely. I rarely leave my workshop. Yet another of your unique inventions was found at the scene. Well, it was the unveiling of the machine I labored over for many months. I saw it clearly with my own eyes, the birdcage plummeting head first. So he's saying head first is what they saw. So that's an inconsistency we found because on the bottom of the cage, it was broken. So it has to be bottom first, then head. Yes, he stabbed in the chest by a screwdriver believed to belong to the defendant, and he had broken vertebrae as a result of fall from a considerable height. Correct, my learned friend has been doing his research, it seems. Do we know which injury was the fatal one? Sadly not. Forensic science is not yet at a level where such things can be determined. What we do know is the victim died having sustained both injuries at some point during the experiment. And since we have found in the birdcage was his neck broken, it's obvious that he fell from considerable height. I suppose that's hard to deny. So, above their heads and then crash head first into the Crystal Tower. The thing that I find an inconsistency is the birdcage is with the victim inside into the crystal causing damage to its base. The base meaning this. Because if this is the head, this is what's inconsistent right here. That's what I'm thinking. If not, I be damned. If not, I be damned.
Objection!
We've examined the birdcage that crashed into the crystal tower ourselves. As you can see, the cage, which is a wooden construction, has sustained damage in one particular spot. Following the explosion, it fell 30 feet into the glass of tower. That level of damage is to be expected, surely. Agreed. The damage itself is entirely understandable. What doesn't make sense is the location of the damage. All the breakage in the wood are the base of the birdcage, not the top. What are you saying? That's the opposite of where they should be. That's right, my lord. The birdcage that was seen at damage at its base. So we have reports of the birdcage falling headlong into the crystal tower, yet the damage is at the bottom. The only way to reconcile these two facts is to accept that there were two birdcages in play that day, which were at some point switched. I did not think of that. Switched during what wasn't a scientific experiment at all, but an elaborate piece of stage trickery. Why was it like highlighted and then back to normal? Good gracious, explain yourself, witness. Well, if we examine the facts, there's only one logical conclusion we can draw. The damage on the base birdcage clearly indicates that it crashed tail first into the tower.
Objection!
But multiple witnesses' reports claim it fell head first. The birdcage materialized in the sky next to the balloon cage, over the stage, following a spontaneous explosion, an altitude of 60 feet above the ground level, which is approximately 18 meters. It then proceeded to fall some 30 feet into the crystal tower in an ensuing deflagration. Witnesses' reports amid chaos are notoriously unreliable. But the victim's neck was broken. He plummeted 30 feet inside a heavy wooden cage. However he fell, it would be unsurprisingly to find one or two of the vertebrae crushed. I riveting scientific analysis of events from the prosecution there. Riveting. Though, to be even more rigorous, you would have to say it was only one vertebra, actually. He wasn't quiet for long. I find it hard to see what's motivating Lord Von Sykes. This witness is clearly a swindler and one who deceived a personal friend of his. If you're going to establish this deception, do it right. Sorry? I feel like that's the undertone of here. Ah, yes, and there's one more point. The defense appears to have forgotten. It obviously wasn't a trick, as a certain truth very plainly demonstrates. What? It seems to me that the cross-examination had better continue until we resolve the matter. Mr. Drebber, you will amend your testimony with details of this truth. Of course. We must treat the matter scientifically after all. I nearly had him there. He's doing the robot. The kinesis clearly took place because there's no way...
Hold it!
I have an idea. What do you mean? Well, before the demonstration began, the victim was alive on stage in front of the audience. Yes, there are lots of witnesses who saw Mr. Osmond on the experimentation stage, that's true. And the victim's neck broke as a result of the impact following the fall. Logically, therefore, the victim must have fallen from somewhere. The balloon that exploded was an altitude of 60 feet. The point of impact in the tower was 30 feet up. The difference of 30 feet is therefore the total distance the birdcage fell. And there's no other location from which the cage could have fallen the distance and didn't drop out of the sky. Ergo, the victim himself must have been beamed from the stage into the sky above the crystal tower. A trenchant scientific analysis. Dear me, every time I hear it explained, it sounds increasingly plausible. Oh yes, it's all very well thought out. Certainly all the spectators on the day saw it. The birdcage plummeting 30 feet through the air, I mean? Irritatingly, yes. I think I have an idea. Case of clear took place because there was nowhere else 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen. 30 feet, they said. If they say this is 60, then we're assuming this could be 30 feet. Right here.
Objection!
No, that's not what I was thinking. That's not what I was thinking of. That's not what I was thinking of. That's not what I was thinking of. I saw Waxword and I was like, processing. Okay, Waxword. But no, that's not what I was thinking. That's not what I was thinking. It was something else. It was something else. Something else. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up.
Objection!
Okay, that was not. Okay, that's not what I was hoping of. Okay, that idea was scratch. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Because I was thinking because this right here, it's this little thing, we have to assume he had to fall from there. That's what I was thinking. So what else can we use? A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science of the machine was built flawed somehow. So you understood the science, did you? Not in the slightest. Oh, right. As I've said a number of times, I'm an engineer. My job is to manufacture according to the blueprints I've given. I would inviting manifold problems if I foolishly allowed my brain to digest the ideas behind them. I could be accused of stealing those ideas, for example. But how is it possible to construct a machine without really understanding the principles it relies on? Well, you're practicing law without really understanding the principles it relies on, aren't you? You got me there. A very good point. Stand up for yourself, Mr. Naruhodo. The point is the experiment resulted in instantaneous kinesis taking place. As such, the science must be sound. Yes, and really, for expected results, all that matters when it comes to proving a hypothesis. He certainly should be sure of himself. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that the machine has been completely destroyed by yesterday's explosion, it's going to be impossible to argue its authenticity one way or another. But if we're unable to establish that it was a piece of stage trickery rather than genuine science, we will have no grounds on which to demonstrate Professor Harebrain's innocence. But both Osmond and Desmond tricked the professor and used him. They took advantage of his nativity and his unbending belief in work. I won't let that get away with. Seeing as the professor is an old friend of Lord Von Sykes, what on earth must he be feeling towards Drebber?
Hold it!
So you were already acquainted with Mr. Osmond himself? Not really. By chance, I seen his name mentioned in the papers, that's all. But I had no interest in his private affairs. If he was an unscrupulous investor, it was no concern of mine. As long as people pay their bills, I take up my tools and construct what they ask for. So why did Osmond approach you in particular then? Who can say? I presume because my name is associated with the excellence in engineering. Not to mention excellence in fraud. Hard to gauge, but the point is all I did was construct the machine according to the blueprints I was given. In other words, the kinesis machine was built on solid scientific principles. Yes, you might say that. Professor Harebrain certainly has a mind like no other. You provided me blueprints, I can try the trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a blood devil. Tell me the word they can let in. It's this one right here. Always insinuating the balloon. Are we talking about the balloon?
Objection!
Nope. Stop. Because I'm out of ideas. I'm out of ideas. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science of which the machine was built was flawed somehow? A very unusual thick glass that was found in the folds of the clothing. Oh, wait. Maybe I have an idea.
Objection!
Nope. Like I said, I have no idea. I already used up all the ideas I have. There's nowhere else 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen.
Objection!
I had the right idea, but different. I had the right idea. It was this one, but it was okay. Because I was showcasing about the 30 feet thing. Come on, son. We know that somehow the birdcage appeared in midair before falling down in the crystal tower. A fall about 30 feet, or 9 meters. However, if you examine the diagram carefully, you'll see that there's one other possible location where the birdcage could have fallen. The same distance of 30 feet. No. Well, it appears the fence has possible explanation to put forward. Go ahead, counsel. Yes, my lord. Of course. You will indicate the place to which you are referring on the same diagram. Alternative location from which the birdcage could have possibly fallen requested 30 feet. Oh, we're gonna stop there because there has to be an exact point, and I don't want to mess up. I don't want to mess up the exact point because this here is 30 feet right here. From wherever the heck this is at, he could be falling down there.
Take that!
The place I'm referring to is here. But that's where the birdcage could have been begin with. Which is exactly the point, my lord. Yes, the birdcage was in the machine on the stage. But what we must also consider is the height of the stage itself. Go on, counsel. It turns out the experimentation stage was built at a considerable height above ground level. If you look at the diagram in fact, you'll see it's about the same height above the ground as the balloon was above the crash site. When the experiment got underway, the machine and the birdcage were engulfed in steam. At the moment, the floor of the stage gave way, and if we assume there had to be a void underneath, this birdcage and the one seen by the audience would have fallen almost exactly the same distance. Once again, my lord, this all points to the fact there was not one birdcage but two.
Objection!
My learned friend has no evidence that the stage had such contrivance in its design. Someone is responsible for the criminal destruction of the kinesis machine itself, it's true. However, the stage still stands. And take a moment look at the photographic print of the scientific— Oh my god! We could have used that as evidence, you know that, right? But they were talking about 30 feet, blah blah. Good lord, the metal grill! The form of the machine is undone. Yes, most likely blown up by the force of explosion that destroyed the rest of the machine. The defense calls for the space below the stage to be investigated immediately. Mr. Drebber? It was you who built the kinesis machine, which means that it was you who built the two birdcages that were used to carry out the deception. Whether Professor Hairbrain's hypothesis is sound or not makes no difference, because it's the construction of this machine that matters. A machine designed to take Mr. Osmond's life and lay the blame firmly at the professor's door, something that could only have been carried out by you, Mr. Enoch Drebber. He's a robot. He's doing the robot.
Objection!
If my learned friend has reached the end of his wild assertions, the prosecution would like to crush the defense's argument slowly but surely. What? Your argument fails to hold water on 2 counts. 2? Firstly, before and after the experiment, this witness went nowhere near the kinesis machine. Every relevant member of the staff from the exhibit was attested to that. And I believe members of Scotland Yard have also been on watch duty at every public experiment. In other words, Mr. Drebber had no opportunity to switch the alleged pair of bird cages. But I've already explained why he wouldn't have need to. The nonsense with the crossbow, that doesn't bolster your case at all. The man who disappeared from stage and the man who crashed in the tower are one and the same. The forensic investigations team report is unequivocal at the point. And the second flaw in your assertion is a distinct lack of motive. Why would the man have wanted to take the victim's life? He had no reason to do so. A motive? Do I have to think of everything myself? I have here a contract provided by the witness. The contract is this. The contract in which Mr. Drebber entered with the victim, Mr. Osmond. It reads, Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from government grants or other income. 30%, certainly very favorable contractual conditions. But there was one very important provision bolted onto the clause. What provision? Mr. Drebber may only uphold his right on condition that both contracting parties are alive. In other words, if either of us were to die, the contract would become null and void. So you see, I had nothing to gain from Osmond's death. The diametric opposite, in fact. Need I say more? The witness had neither an opportunity nor a reason to commit the alleged crime. In short, the possibility of Mr. Drebber having done it, as you suggest, is nil. It seems the defense assertion was somewhat wide of the mark. Lord Von Zarks, you will submit the contract as evidence, please. It's true. The Drebber had no opportunity to switch the birdcage under the stage with someone in the Crystal Tower. He couldn't have done it. And in any case, I have no idea what his motive might have been. There is one aspect of your argument that still holds true, however. There were 2 birdcages. The prosecution is unable to deny that. So I'm sure you're right on the lines, Mr. Naruhodo. And I have no doubt there are no other aspects of your assertion. That there are undeniable truths too. Well, it would seem that the defense has no rejoinder to offer. Well, I must say I'm a little surprised. I came here to testify about the machine I built, and instead my reputation is defiled. But the prosecution's counter has set the record straight, I think. It's impossible that I'm the culprit.
Objection!
At the beginning of the trial, we believed that there was only 1 birdcage. Yet now we know there must have been 2. In other words, there was more to the demonstration than we realized at first. I think it's abundantly clear that the same applies to the culprit. Get to the point. The stage demonstration was constructed and set up entirely by you, Mr. Drebber. Therefore, it's inconceivable that you had no hand in the events that transpired. So if circumstance means it's impossible that you could have carried out the crime yourself, it points to the fact that someone else was involved. Someone else? Counsel? Are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. Mr. Drebber had an accomplice.
Objection!
An accomplice now. Well then, I presume you prepare for what's to come. Now that you're accusing not only the witness, but someone else of the most serious of crimes. If these accusations turn out to be false, then make no mistake. The prosecution will demand an equally serious punishment for your slander. Well, counsel, do you intend to pursue this course of formal accuse of another party involved in this matter? What do I do here? At the moment, this is little more than a hunch on my part. I don't know for sure if Drebber had an accomplice, or even he really is the culprit here. One way or another, though, I have to make my position clear. As a lawyer. So what's my stance going to be? Did Drebber have an accomplice? Or not? I'm assuming it's Madame Tuspils. I'm assume. Somehow the two birdcages must have been switched. Everything points to that. Yet according to the coroner's report, that's not a possibility. But that inconsistency itself is a clue. Let me see the court. The investor, Mr. Audios, hereby enters the contract with the provider, Mr. to fund labor and materials for construction of a super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from government grants of other income. Mr. Drebber may be upheld to this right in the condition that both contracts are alive. Oh, wait. Let me see. Already looked at that. You have received a stark warning already. If you are nevertheless determined, then I must now ask you to identify this alleged accomplice by name. So, your answer, please. Who do you claim to have been Mr. Drebber's accomplice? Okay, my only idea is her. That's my only idea right now.
Take that!
Yeah, we got it wrong. The moment they started using big words, that's when they just came out. It was not the right idea. Okay, if it's not her because of the wax, because the wax shard thing is there, who could have been?
Take that!
The dead man. Okay, who else? We cannot see him because we were trying to save him. Okay, but what? Okay, it's either these two? Why explains the bandage on him? Why do we have to press on that? Okay, our last option. Two remaining options remaining. The balloon guy and the brat, because who else do we have to ascertain? Because what was the point of us doing the thing? I don't understand.
Take that!
Because we have no viable proof. Wait a minute.
Take that!
Nah. I got nothing. So I picked the wrong option, didn't I? We had to back down, but what was the point of us deliberately saying...
Take that!
What was the point of us objecting to that? Because do we really have to back down? Was it an option for us just to back down, or...
Take that!
Huh? The name of the person in question is... What's wrong, my Nipponese friend? Surely fear doesn't bind your tongue now. It's a little late for that. Of course, I'm afraid. After all, naming her in this capacity is definitely going to make waves. A lot of waves. I could very well turn every single person in the courtroom against me. But why are we why? She was like the least in my radar. She's underneath my radar right there. How were we gonna assume it was her? Why is she under my radar? How was she? Okay. Because I would not suspect the one that works for the government to be the one to be the accomplice. I was thinking more of the Madam Spells because she has the freaking wax figure. But what on blazes are you talking about, Dr. Scythe? The head of the forensic investigation team and the coroner who conducted the autopsy of the victim? Well, I do say they kind of look related, don't you think? We know there were 2 bird cages, so who could have carried out the switch to complete the illusion? The accident happened in front of a huge crowd of spectators, and the area was immediately sealed off. Then everyone, police officers included, were banished to make way of the forensic investigation team. When else could the switch have occurred? It can only have been in the team's presence. In essential to that, the court determines exactly that the happening following the incident. The defense demands that Dr. Scythe must be summoned to the witness stand at once to testify. Who invited the kid? You got a nerve, lad. Standing up there, dragging the yard's name through the mud. I didn't mean to. I know the woman very well. There's no better dead room worker out there. How dare you call her a criminal? My learned friend's imagination appears to be wilder than the East End at night. But the recklessness of your accusation aside, there's no another grave problem with your argument. One which the prosecution demands you address at once. A grave problem? Oh my word. Who do you claim acted as the victim doppelganger? What? Certainly, if the bird cage containing the body of the victim was exchanged for another, the cage must also have contained a body. And yet, no missing person or accidental deaths of anyone even remotely resembling the victim have been reported. Which means there was no one, dead or alive, could have fulfilled the role of the body of the double for Osmond. That's true. If my argument is there were 2 bird cages, then there must have been 1 person inside each. But I don't know if I got an answer to this yet, have I? What can I do to reveal this body double the stunt was achieved? Present evidence? Very well. The defense will address my learned friend's concerns by presenting evidence that reveals the true nature of Osmond's body double. Good gracious, evidence? I do hope this is a fibrous counsel. The court is expecting a name. If you think you have relevant evidence, present it now. The body double and the birdcage were hiding inside the balloon that was floating above the stage, which means that any witness would have seen them from 60 feet away. So who was it appeared that out the explosion some 80 meters above the spectators? Aha! The body double inside the second birdcage was...
Take that!
We know that the victim, Mr. Osmond, was in the birdcage that was situated in the kinesis machine on stage. Therefore, he couldn't have been inside the second birdcage. Instead, that contained something else. What's been described as a body double, which is what fell from the sky and crashed into the crystal tower. Yes, Counsel. According to your somewhat elaborate version of events, and that body double inside the second birdcage was, in fact... It's alright, Mr. Naruhodo. You're ready for this. Just steel yourself and come out with it. Thank you, Mr. Sud. I needed that. As I was saying, the body double inside the second birdcage was, unbelievably as it may seem... Whoa! Why do we have that on stage? Why is that here in court?
Objection!
Open your eyes and look into mine, my Nipponese friend. Now tell me, what are you playing at? Stand firm now, Ryunosuke. This is the time you show your Japanese spirit. At the court, we'll observe this is the waxwork model. A model, in fact, of an infamous London murderer from like 10 years ago, the Professor.
Objection!
You're started by indicating the leader of the forensic investigation team as an accomplice in this crime. And now you move on to indicating the waxworks. Yes, that's about the size of it. But why? And why this waxwork? It looks nothing like the victim. In fact, it could hardly resemble him less. What possible justification can you give? I was about to say jurisdiction. If you want to know why, ask Mr. Drebber. What? Just days before Professor Hairbrain's performed his public demonstration, Mr. Drebber abducted this model from Madame Tuspel's. Did you say abducted? And 2 days after the incident at the Great Exhibit, he returned it to the museum. And the timing. Is this true, Mr. Drebber? At first, I couldn't see why Mr. Drebber would have stolen the waxwork and then given it back again. But now the reason is clear. He took it so that he could put it inside the second birdcage as a body double for Osmond.
Objection!
Are you hearing this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Are you hearing the defense's astonishing proposal? Oh, here we go. That the witness fabricated this vast machine with the intention of deceiving some wretched scientists. That he did so in conclusion with the country's finest coroner on the public stage in front of a vast audience. And that, to the effect of deception, he used a waxwork model that in a way resembles the victim. Are we really going to believe this far-fetched tale? What do you decide? Oh, here we go. Wait! Yes, if you put it like that, of course it sounds implausible. My lord. Oh, here we go again. We'll end the episode off right here. We know where this is gonna go. Like, comment, subscribe. Shortcuts XTB and I'm signing out.